Testing. Testing. Boo.
Bet I can smash that.
There's something about the spooky season, or fall, or autumn as normies may call it, that is a great backdrop for coming-of-age stories. Stories about growing up and moving on and, most importantly, facing your fears. A big movie example of this might be It, which is a story about a bunch of kids that have sex in a cave. Well, at least in the book.
Why don't you take a seat right over there?
Speaking of coming of age, that's exactly what we're going to talk about tonight. I want to talk to you about 5 different games that I've played recently that are all about becoming a better person, or growing up, or letting go of the past, or just moving on to bigger and better things, or even just the possibility of bigger and better things. And those games range from great to belonging in a witch's cauldron. Some of you may not know, but I'm actually a collector of paranormal items, and this happens to be the skull of Ed Gein. After he died, his skull actually shrunk quite a bit, and in order to preserve itself in the afterlife, became plastic so that it would be, you would think this is a simple Walmart decoration, especially with the tag, but you'd be wrong. This is the skull of a man who had a belt made out of human nipples. That's real. That happened. To start the night off on a positive note, let's start with a game that I just finished playing and I'm extremely excited to talk about. And that game is Night in the Woods. In Night in the Woods, you play as May, who's a college dropout who has come to her hometown of Possum Springs after being gone for 2 years after high school, and she finds that things are quite a bit different than they were when she left. The local food donkey supermarket has gone out of business, and there's a new supermarket just outside of town that everyone goes to. Your town now has a snack falcon instead of a supermarket. The local businesses are all slowly but surely dying a slow, painful death, and you can feel it in the townsfolk. Every day you run back and forth across town, talking to people, meeting your friends, going to band practice, going on paranormal activities like ghost hunting, and eventually uncover a greater plot about a bunch of dads throwing people in a pit to please a cosmic entity so that the town will stay prosperous. Yeah, this story kind of goes off the rails in the last chapter. Greg, Bee, and Angus are her 3 main friends that you'll be spending the most amount of time with. Greg is one of your best friends since you were a kid. Bee was one of your best friends from when you were a kid, but you kind of grew apart before you went to college. And Angus is Greg's boyfriend, who you're kind of friends with because of Greg, and depending on how you play the game, you become either better friends with, or he just kind of stays as like a background character and doesn't do a whole lot. And that's the great thing about this game, is that you really have a reason to play through it more than once, because you can't experience the whole game in one playthrough. I, for example, spent most of the game with Bee because her story interested me, and she seemed like the most in-depth character to spend time with. However, I've seen other people say the same about the other characters in the game, so maybe I just need to go back and play through all the stories. As I mentioned earlier, the game kind of takes a weird turn towards the end. Spoilers if you haven't played it, but the game's been out for a few years now, so I feel it's safe to talk about. Through most of the game, you kind of slowly uncover that May has some serious mental health problems, and it's a big reason why she left college, and she had trouble before she went to college. She assaulted a kid at a softball game, and she's had a very hard time dealing with things. Towards the end of the game, however, you find that a bunch of townspeople have been throwing homeless people, drug addicts, and drunks into a essentially bottomless pit in a mountain next to the town to please some kind of cosmic entity that every time they throw a person in, the town prospers for a few months. And then they have to throw another person in, and so on and so forth. And the town is barely hanging on by a thread as it is. So throwing these people in is really not doing much besides killing innocent people. May kind of decides for herself that this entity is the thing that was causing her to have behavioral health problems, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because it sounds like she's been having problems since before this thing was discovered, or at least as far as I can tell. Also, no one else ever says that. I don't even think the entity says that. When she speaks to it, it just says gibberish, and then she tells it to go pound sand, and then it's over. And the next day, which is like the epilogue of the game, she even says that she doesn't really feel any different, so I'm not so sure that the thing was really causing her behavioral health problems, and you know, she's going to have to explore that further on her own and help herself rather than just blaming this thing that lived in a mountain. Maybe one day we'll get a sequel, or maybe like a tie-in comic, or something that explains what happened to the characters after the end of the game. But the game had a lot of heart, and I really appreciated a lot of the stories that it told, and I believed these characters. That's a really important thing about these coming-of-age stories, is I need to be able to stand with these characters and believe the things that they're saying and feel them for myself. I myself had trouble when I started going to college. I stopped going for a semester before kind of really figuring out what I wanted to do, and then I did figure out what I wanted to do, and I moved on to university and graduated, and now I don't even really enjoy my career that much. So, people change their minds a lot, and people have trouble deciding what they want to do, especially at a young age. It's hard, it's not that easy. So I believe the stories that this game tries to tell, with B being jealous that May gets to go to college and going out of town to go to college parties just to try and see what it feels like, and feeling hopeless in her hometown running the family hardware store after her mother passes away and her dad just kind of becomes a shell. It's gut-wrenching listening to some of these stories, and I feel for all these characters. I think that the game told many good stories, and I'm excited to go back and experience the things that I missed the first time around. Now, to follow up a game where you had lots of believable friends and sidekicks through the story, let's talk about a game where you have one friend and she's an insufferable c***. Yeah, that's right, we're talking about Life is Strange, and I'm upset that I spent time playing this game. It sucks. Look, I know a lot of people like this game, kind of like they like Night in the Woods, they feel attached to these characters, but and I know these games have target demographics, and maybe Night in the Woods characters are like slightly older, so I kind of connect with them a little bit better. They're like in their 20s, early 20s, I'm in my mid-20s, and characters from Life is Strange are in high school, but Chloe is just the most unbelievably awful person that Max, the main character, could spend time with, and after like one interaction, a realistic person would stop talking to her because she's terrible. So back up. Max has time-traveling powers, which she finds out when Chloe gets shot in the bathroom at school, I think. And Max freaks out, and then time goes back and she's like, whoa, I just reversed time. That's cool. Oh, I gotta go stop Chloe from getting shot. And then you do, and then you whoa, we used to be best friends. Way back when. Let's be best friends again, and then you're best friends again. And then Chloe abuses Max's powers, and there's one point in the game where Chloe keeps kind of getting herself hurt, and then she's like, oh, rewind time, and then Max does it, and then she's like, oh, it hurts when I rewind time too many times. I'm going to say time a lot in this. And so she's like, oh man, that's crazy.
Do it again, fucker.
And she does it again, and then Max obviously gets hurt because she rewound time. Chloe sucks. Chloe sucks and Max is dumb. I don't like these characters. They're not fun. And there's like a whole subplot with like murders and stuff, and it's got like the most like easy to figure out twist that comes along. Oh, actually it was that guy. Duh. Obviously, who wrote this? Like a college student wrote this story and they put it into a game. And the dialogue. Don't even get me started on the dialogue. These characters talk like Wish Upon. Wish Upon. Have you seen Wish Upon? Go watch that god-awful garbage movie. The way that like teens talk in that movie is how like teens talk in this game. It's not quite as bad. It's not as bad as Wish Upon, but...
Did you see the freak snowfall yesterday?
I was riveted by that weird snow flurry yesterday.
Now, let's talk business. Wrong. You got hella cash. You are going to get in hella more trouble for this.
Now you're totally stuck in the retro zone. Sad face.
You're such a poser. If you can't even name a simple nose slide or a tray flip, you should walk on. Oh, sick. You're not a poser.
Like, I get it when people call it like life is Tumblr, and I hate to just use the word Tumblr as like an insult, but in this case, it's an insult. I don't want to talk about this game anymore. It's not fun. I didn't like it. I didn't play the prequel or the sequel or the Secret of Captain Mike. I don't know what it's called. This is like a free tie-in game or something you can play. Anyway, now, done talking about Life is Strange. Let's change our frequencies. Get to Oxenfree, because they use radios in the game to listen to stuff. Hi. Oxenfree it's so good, and at times it is so creepy, and I think it is the perfect example of this game taking place in the fall/spooky season that's about growing up and accepting loss and moving on. Like, that it like ticks all the boxes for this video subject. And yet, even though it is great, I connected just this much more with Night in the Woods, and I'll tell you why. I think that the creepiness and the interactivity of Oxenfree was better than Night in the Woods, because Night in the Woods was basically just run left and right, jump, and play band practice sometimes. And Oxenfree, I think the messing with the radio frequencies and the creepiness of some of the stuff that happens to the characters through the game, that stuff is great, but I think the story and the like theming that it was trying to go for kind of took a backseat compared to Night in the Woods. It kind of just, it does the opposite, and I would rather have less gameplay and a more potent story and potent characters than, you know, whatever gameplay. It feels like I'm kind of babbling about this, but you get my point. The atmosphere that this game creates and the soundtrack and everything is just so good. I was petrified for these characters through a lot of the game. And the dialogue sections between characters was also very believable. It's just the message of the game feels like it's just a little more muddled than Night in the Woods, which was very straightforward, like, here's the message. And Oxenfree was like, there's a message somewhere, boo, scary thing. There weren't really jump scares. I didn't mean to make it sound like it's full of jump scares. It's not. It's just creepy. Now, this next game that I want to talk about may have flown under some of your radars. It's a little bit less well-known than the last three games that I talked about, and possibly even the last game I'm going to talk about. But the game is called Anodyne 2, Return to Dust. I first heard about this game a long time ago when I was still writing about video games for a website. I used to do that. and I was approached by the developers with a demo for the game, and they sent me some screenshots and stuff, and it's got this really cool PlayStation 1 aesthetic, but like just upgraded a little bit, and it looked great, and it looked weird and kind of kooky, and I was all about it. So I played the demo, and I was totally hooked. And when the game finally came out, I was super excited, and I played through it, and man, there is not many games like it, I can honestly say. You play as Nova, who was created to destroy this evil substance called nanodust, and that's what you do. Your main weapon is essentially a vacuum cleaner a la Luigi's Mansion, and you have to go around this island interacting with strangers and entering their bodies. Well, actually, first you have to play like a rhythm mini game, and then you become nano-sized and you jump into their bodies, and then you clean the nanodust from within them to kind of purify them. The nanodust, it makes them sick. It can eventually kill them. So you get inside their body, you clean out the nanodust, and that's it. That's what you do. The whole game is just doing that, and you explore this big open island, these beautiful vistas, these weird characters, and you kind of slowly uncover a plot that a lot of things were stacked against you from the beginning, and you kind of feel betrayed by your creators. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there's a twist at the end of the story, and the message of the story is that you essentially break free from your creator's grasp, and you go on to do whatever you want, really. It's kind of ambiguous at the end of the game, but essentially you fight for your own freedom. And it's incredible. I don't necessarily know if the story was supposed to be about, getting freedom from your abuser or something kind of around that, but that's kind of what I gathered from it. And the developers are extremely hands-on with their fans. They interact with people on Twitter all the time. I remember when the game came out and they were sharing reviews and stuff, and this game reviewed incredibly well. I beg of you to go and play Anodyne 2 Return to Dust. It is so good. You're gonna love it. It's weird. If you like weird games, definitely go play it. And even if you don't, play it anyway. And Steam has a return policy. You can return it after 2 hours if you don't like it, but I highly suggest you give it a chance. It is a sleeper indie hit, and it deserves way more attention than it gets. And now that we've talked about a sleeper indie hit, let's talk about an indie game that is
You guys realize how messed up all this is? My 12-year-old sister killed herself. She died right here, right where we're standing.
Hey, dude, cool it with that! No one cares about your sister right now. We almost just died ourselves!
Alex, didn't you hear?
Hear what? What's wrong?
2 nights ago, Rory committed suicide.
What?
He's gone. His mother found him.
The game is called Y2K, or as I prefer to pronounce it, yiik. Y2K, a postmodern RPG. A title so pretentious that you only wish that you could punch it in its face.
Masterful creation. Smooth plastic skin, slick curves, and a perfectly sculpted face that reminded me.
And then you play the game and you want to punch it in the face even more. So I talked earlier about Life is Strange, right? And how I didn't really like that game that much. But I would play Life is Strange 10 times again before I sit through Y2K again. So let's back up. A couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago I think, I went to PAX East and I got to play Y2K before it came out. And from the demo, I was like, this game looks so cool, the graphical style is so neat, and it's all stylized and stuff, and the characters seemed pretty cool. And then I had a combat section that I had to play through, and one dinky little fight, this is a turn-based RPG, mind you, it took me like 20 to 25 minutes to beat. Like my time slot was done. Like I need to move on to the next thing, and I'm still just trying to do this one fight. And so then I finished it and I was like, wow, that was cool. You know, in the back of my head, I'm like, God, that combat though, like, hoo-wee, they just need to tweak that and the game will be great. No. Y2K, you play as this guy, Alex. And Alex is the most unlikable video game character ever. He is terrible to everyone that calls him a friend. He's supposed to be this like douchey hipster. Like, the lead developer keeps saying like, oh, he's supposed to be unlikable, blah, 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 and then he's supposed to like have a redemption at the end. And just spoilers, okay, because I don't want any of you to have to play this game. He's supposed to have this redemption arc at the end of the game. Alex is terrible. He's a terrible human being. Just look at some stuff. Prove my point.
Hey, what do you want?
Can you get away from work for a bit? Not long. Just need to run to Windtown. So like 3 to 4 hours tops.
Are you serious? You want me to just walk away from my job for 3 to 4 hours?
It's important. Look, no one here really needs you to do your job. It'll be fine.
Chrono Trigger, Lufia 2, Secret of Mana? Those games are like the holy grail of my youth! I seriously don't think I'd be the person I am today if it wasn't for them.
Ever played Two Brothers?
It's too screwed up to even think about. We went to his funeral last night. Where the hell were you?
No. Remember when I touched the android? She took me away into her stupid mind dimension and...
None of that matters anymore, Alex! Rory is dead!
Why the hell would he kill himself?
So he's supposed to have like a redemption arc at the end, but his redemption arc, it's not warranted. He's just like, you know, I'm a better guy now. And like not single-handedly, but is a reason why one of the other characters ends up committing suicide. And when he finds out over the phone, he's just like, me. What does everyone think about me? Oh my God, me. What do people think about me now? It's like, he killed himself. And then later on, you see the character and he's like, don't worry, buddy. It wasn't your fault. Don't be too hard on yourself. And then you find out that you are the most important person, not only in your universe, but every universe that has ever existed. Alex is the most important person. Like, talk about inflating your ego, and then you have to like kill Proto-Alex, who's like the stem of all the other Alexes, and then like everything ceases to exist because Alex doesn't exist, and it's like... Like the whole story is just Alex meets a girl in an elevator that he thinks is hot, and then she gets taken away in front of him by like interdimensional space creatures, and then he's like, oh my God, I loved her, I have to get her back. This game has the longest dialogue sections ever, where just nothing is happening. Like expository dialogue is just like blah 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 at your face for like 30 minutes straight. It just goes and goes, and it just does not shut up. This game does not have, it just needs to stop. Just stop. Let me play the game. On second thought, don't let me play the game because the gameplay sucks. There's all kinds of backtracking through areas you've already been through. The combat is... I was talking about the demo earlier where it took me like 25 minutes to finish one fight, and through like half of the game, that is how it is. You know, even when you've got a full party of characters, it does not matter because enemies have so much health or take so little damage, I don't know. They just take forever to kill. And then you unlock LP Toss, which is a move for Alex, of course it is, that can one-shot every enemy in the game. And you no longer need to fight. Like, there's no point. And yet you have to over and over and over, and you just go through these boring fights one-shotting enemies, like to the point where you get to the end of the game and you're one-shotting like the final bosses. There's no balance. It's either the fights take half an hour or they take 2 seconds and it just feels egregious to have to go through them. Now back in January of 2020, there's a note on Steam, on the Steam page, where they said, we're going to be fixing the combat to balance it out and make it better, or something, I don't know. And it's October now, and there's been no follow-up post that I can find or any proof of said update, so I don't think that's happening, and frankly, I don't blame them. I think we're past damage control at this point. The game came out over a year ago, and I can't imagine that anybody is playing it now, aside from like sick masochism. No other reason to play this game. The game doesn't know like what kind of tone it wants to go for. You get this like long dialogue, serious stuff, serious, everything's so serious, blah blah blah. Oh my god, we have to fight a gold alpaca that says lemonade over and over when he does stuff. The one thing that the game really has going for it is the art. I like the art. I like how it looks. I like the movement of the characters. That's one thing that I will praise the game for. I think it looks really cool. I think that it's trying to be Earthbound with its enemy designs and kind of falling on its face a little bit. Earthbound had some really flippin' good enemy designs, and you just don't try to copy it. Just do your own thing. But they didn't. And the cherry on top of this diarrhea sundae is this lead developer being a total whiny bitch on social media and in interviews, and he's like, oh, I made the mistake of thinking that video games could be art. Turns out that video games are actually supposed to just be for kids. Like, dude, your game sucks. Your main character sucks. His redemption arc sucks. Every single thing about Y2K, a postmodern RPG, sucks except for the art. That's it, and it took me a second to remember what the good part was. It's the art. Go play Night in the Woods or Oxenfree or Anodyne, and if you have to choose between this and Life is Strange, play Life is Strange. So let's split up these games into 3 categories. And those 3 categories will be great, middling, and belongs in the Witch's Cauldron. The 3 games that we have in great are Oxenfree, Night in the Woods, and Anodyne 2. Special regards to Anodyne 2 because not enough people know about it. Go play the game. In middling, we've got Life is Strange because it doesn't feel natural. And I forgot to mention the weird character faces that feel like they're the character faces that Mass Effect Andromeda pulled from for their like facial animations and rigging. It looks bad sometimes. Sometimes it's passable, but other times. And in the Witch's Cauldron is Y2K, a postmodern RPG. I don't have a physical copy of the game because I don't think they ever ended up existing. I think they were supposed to get a limited run and that fell through or something, or like people are still waiting. I'm not sure. If it does happen and they do come out, I will buy one to burn it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A little bit longer than the stuff that I've been doing, and this video was going to be a little different before. Originally, I was going to be sitting outside at my actual fire pit, and I was going to be talking to you with the glow of the fire. And then I realized that my fire pit does not glow that brightly, and so it was kind of pitch black, and I was just kind of sitting in the darkness talking with like a really poorly glowing fire pit. So I was like, okay, never mind. I'll do afternoon lighting. That'll be great. And then I did it, and it turns out that in the afternoon in my neighborhood, there's just constant fucking noise. Cars going by, the neighbors' horses neighing, dogs barking, birds won't shut the So, couldn't use that, and so I kind of did what I do best, and I stayed in my office, and I found a dirty black sheet, some Halloween lights, Ed Gein's skull that I definitely, this is Ed Gein. Say hi, Ed. Hi, I'm Ed Gein. I have a nipple belt. Hi, I boiled people in a cauldron. And this cool pumpkin thing that I put candles in. Isn't that cool? Look at it. It costs $4. Oh, and this green light bulb that is starting to give me a headache from looking at it. Don't forget to check out the Facebook, Twitter, and Discord in the description. You know, join the Discord if you want. Follow the socials. You don't have to, just saying. You can do it. Also, we had these made not too long ago. They're official Reset Get stickers that we got made on some sticker making website. We don't have any way of selling these yet. I haven't set up a shop or anything, but I just wanted to show you guys these and gauge interests. Would anyone want to have something like this? Should I try to start selling things? Please let me know. If not, I'll just keep handing them out to random people as I see fit. So thanks for joining me on this spooky existential video, and have a nice fall. A nice trip. What's the joke? Oh, I'm the joke.